Hey guys, it's coming as me another installment of Own It, Never Falking, Seen It. Continuing my look at the Indiana Jones reviews. This will be for the last one I'm going to be reviewing because I have seen Kingdom Crystal Skull before, and that is for the 1989 sequel, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And what Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade is essentially about is basically we center on Indy a few years later in 1938, and at this point he's not really into archaeology anymore. He's kind of settled down, he's become a full-on professor, and he is approached by he's approached by this guy named Walter Donovan, who basically sends him on this quest to retrieve this artifact, but he also tells him that his father is also on the same mission, and Indy isn't really interested in the archaeology of it all. He's much more interested in finding his estranged father and basically reconnecting with him, and basically that's what does end up happening here. He is on a quest to find his father, maybe rescue him if he needs to, and hopefully reconnect with him, but they soon realize that there is a much more bigger conspiracy than what they thought was going on, and that's really all I'm going to say. So Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade, I was very interested in this movie. Obviously, I've really loved this series so far, but I also didn't know how it was really going to go, because I've heard from many people that this is, some people say this is like the best one, some people say it's like the second best, and coming off the heels of Raiders of the Lost Ark, I just did not really see how that can be topped. And did this film top it? No, but it is very, very close. This is a very well done sequel that does a really great job of subverting your expectations in a way that I think is honestly kind of hard in a franchise like this, but let's just get into it, starting off with the cast. And once again, everyone here is very well casted. I think we honestly got some of the best performances out of anyone in this movie. I really did love everyone here. And once again, Harrison Ford as Indy, he's still great. He still does a really great job as that very charismatic presence, who Indy is in a bit of a different position in this film, though. You know, he's learned a lot since the events of Raiders, and like I said, he's not as into the archaeology elements as you know, as he once was. Like, still, obviously, he wants artifacts to be in the place they are, but he's much more interested in this from a personal perspective, and you really do see his growth throughout the film, but he still does have that charming side to him. He still does have that badassery, and that's something I do still really like about Indy. You know, like I said, he's grown a lot, but he is still the same Indiana Jones that we do know and love, and I think he still does a very good job here. I really did love him in this role, and definitely one of those roles that, you know, is so iconic, and you watch after these three movies, and you really are gonna miss watching, because I do think he's quite fantastic here. However, as good as he is, he's actually not the standout of this movie. The standout of this movie, without a doubt, is Sean Connery as his father in this film, Henry Jones, who, in my opinion, like I said, I think he steals this entire movie. What I really love about Henry is how dissimilar he is to Indy here, because Indy and Henry just did not have a very good father-son bonding, and you see that very well. He's very overly critical of his son. You know, he very much is interested in the archaeology elements, and because of that, he wasn't really in his life a lot, and you see the clash that these two really do have. And not only did he have some really great one-liners, because there's a lot, like I said, he's very overtly critical of his son, and I just really did enjoy seeing that, but there also is a really nice bond between these two. I honestly think that Henry, he just added so much more to this film. Like, you could have easily done a really good sequel, but having Henry in there, it just adds this much more personal dynamic that we just did not have in an Indiana Jones film prior to this, and I really did love that about this film. I think these two work so well together. I think it's probably some of the best chemistry in this entire series, and it's unfortunate that Sean Connery, you know, did not return, was unfortunately not able to return after this film, because I do think he was absolutely fantastic here. I really love what he did in this film. And then the rest of the cast, I think, also is very good. Allison Doody. Let's talk about her character, Dr. Schneider, because I can't get into Elsa's character too much in the film, but where they end up going with her is definitely not where you expect at all. And I think she did a really good job of playing someone who's very different from Marion. You know, obviously, you can't recreate Marion. You simply can't. And once again, you can see why they brought her back for the next movie, because her and Ford's chemistry, I don't really think is there. That is definitely one of my problems with this film. I don't really think they have that great of chemistry. But I did really like the Elsa character, because this is someone who is much more well-versed in the archaeological field. And I think they bonded very well because that's some of the best scenes in the movie, just them interacting. And I think she did a really great job. But who I also really love was Julian Glover as Walter Donovan. He's like this businessman who essentially sends the Joneses on their quest for the Holy Grail, and where they end up going with him as well, I was very surprised about. You know, it's not at all the direction you expect, and I think he did a really great job in this movie. He is after the Holy Grail, but for a much different intent than he was for Raiders, and that's something I really did enjoy about this film overall. I think, honestly, everyone just did a really great job here once again. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, because Steven Spielberg, I think, out of all the films, probably had the biggest challenge with this film, because Temple of Doom, while people enjoy it now, back then, it was kind of panned. People really were not a huge fan of it because they thought it was too dark, and they thought that it was simply just too much for this series. So Spielberg had a real challenge where he had to try to find a way to blend in the darker tone, but also keep that fun, adventurous tone that the first movie did have. And I think he really did achieve that balance quite well here, because there are moments in this film that are very significantly dark. I mean, the first scene of this movie, right off the bat, we get a very, very deep glimpse into Indy's childhood that we did not see before, and it is honestly really dark where he ends up going with it, but this is also the funniest of the Indiana Jones movies, without a doubt. I mean, so many great lines from Sean Connery, and I think he did a really great job with blending those two tones together. I think definitely, out of all the films, I do think Raiders is definitely the, you know, most well-directed, but this one is very, very close. Like, I think Spielberg did a very good job directing this movie, and I was very impressed by it. But again, the screenplay, I think, also is very hard to do. This one was not written by Lawrence Kasdan. It was, in fact, this guy named Jeffrey Boam. And I think he had a real challenge here because, again, coming off the heels of Raiders, and that film was just such a, it was just such a revolution, such a revolutionary film. And again, people were so disappointed by the second one. But what you want to do with the third one is that you have to try to further the story, but also not try to rehash the first movie, because they wanted that proper sequel, and he did a really great job with that. There's really not too much about this movie that is similar for Raiders. The only thing that's similar is that they're going after an artifact, and that, you know, all these characters have like a common interest in getting to it, but they really don't, because like I said, you have someone like Indy who, in the beginning of the film, not only is he kind of retired, but he just does not really care about the archaeology of it all. Like, sure, he hears about this item and he's somewhat intrigued, but he's much more intrigued about his father being there. And I thought that was just a really nice touch that we just have not really seen before in this series, especially someone like Indiana Jones, who is so obsessed with artifacts and is fascinated by, you know, where they started and their origin and things like that. And I think that the fact that he's not so set on it and he's much more focused on, you know, getting his father, I think was just a really good idea, and it made a lot of sense for that character who did, you know, have a considerable amount of growth after Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's something that I definitely really did enjoy in this film. However, what I also really liked is the villains in this movie. The villains in this movie are not like the villains in the first one. You have someone like Walter Donovan, who is so obsessed with the Holy Grail, but not because he wants to use it to take over the world. No, he is obsessed with the idea of, like, immortality and what this can really do. He wants to do what he can to, like, preserve human life. He does not want to see anyone go, and I just really loved how fascinated he was by it. And you really do want to see him, you want to see what he's going to do with it. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're not necessarily rooting for the villain, but you want to see how he's going to use this to his advantage, because he talks about it a great deal about it throughout the film, and they did a really great job with keeping us invested in what he was really trying to do, and I really did love that with the writing. I think the writing was so well done. And again, when you add that father-son dynamic, it just adds this whole other layer to the film with Indy and with his father, because like I said, very early on in the movie, we get a really nice glimpse into his childhood, who he really used to be, why he's afraid of snakes, and I mean, it just feels so complete. It honestly makes me kind of mad that there's a fourth film in this series, because this really does feel like the conclusion. It feels like we've gotten everything we can out of this character, and they did a very good job with that here. I really do love the writing in this film, much more than I did, some of it much more even than Raiders, because I just think they did a really impressive job of really fleshing out these characters to their fullest potential, more than I would have expected them to. And again, while it is definitely the funniest film in the franchise, I mean, there are so many ridiculous scenes in this film. I mean, I'm sure you guys know the line, "It's intolerable." That is uttered a lot throughout this movie, and you can tell why it is so iconic, because Connery just absolutely kills it in those scenes, and I just really loved his comedy here. I just really... Again, I think the film really does benefit from Connery being there. He just adds this whole other layer that I really did love. And like I said, the comedy here is, I think, even better than the first two. I mean, they're just little scenes of Sean Connery referring to Indy as Junior, even though he doesn't want to be called Junior. I just absolutely love. There is a scene with Hitler in this movie that I'm truly never going to forget, and I really loved where they ended up going with it. It was insane. It really was, and I can't believe the movie actually went there, but they fucking did it, and I really do appreciate them for it, because movies today, I don't think would be able to do something like that, and the fact that they did it, I was very impressed by, and I definitely really did enjoy. In terms of action, this film definitely does go for it. Once again, similar to the first one, there are so many memorable action scenes, such as like a plane scene or just the entire climax in general. I mean, there are so many great action scenes in this movie that I just really do enjoy. And the back and forth between the two Joneses, it just adds this whole dynamic to even the action scenes that I really do love and I really did enjoy. And once again, obviously, the score is great. I mean, just hearing the score in general just perfectly gets you into the series, and I definitely really did enjoy it. And the editing, I do think this film was very well edited. It flew by very quickly for me. It's the longest of the three, but it feels like the shortest because it goes by so fast, and there's so much that you're into, and just the scope of it all, I definitely really did enjoy, and I think was just very well done here. But now I do want to get into just a few spoilers, because there were some things this film did that I definitely did not see coming and that I really did love, and I just really do want to jump into it. Now, the biggest thing I want to talk about is Elsa, because, of course, like I said, she shows up, and I was a fan of her at first. I enjoyed seeing their back and forth of them bonding over archaeology, but I just did not really sense a lot of chemistry there. Like, it just, to me, felt, especially after Marion, there's really no girl that's going to compare, and I just did not really feel like their chemistry was really there. I didn't really feel like these two really connected at all in a romantic perspective. And again, I thought that him and, you know, him and the other girl, who I'm blanking on her name right, him and Willie, there we go, Willie and Temple of Doom were bad. This was another level. Like, I just did not see any romantic chemistry there. And then it's revealed that she actually betrayed him, and not only that, she was working for the Nazis. That was a fantastic twist. That I really did love, and it does make sense why she is on board with this, and why she actually is obsessed with the idea of preserving life. I really did love that idea, and I think they did a really good job with that overall, because again, it's very different from the first one, and I love that they did that. They really have done a very good job in the series of of making every film dissimilar from the first, and I really love that. And of course, the climax of this film is just so great. That moment where you think Henry's actually going to die, it's a really beautiful moment because obviously him and Indy, you know, they were doing their best to make amends, and at that point we saw that, you know, he was talking about how he was absent in his life and things like that, and you know, they did kind of try to patch things up the best as they can, but there's that moment where he thinks his father's gonna die, and you just realize how important this is to him. Like, he actually tries to save him, and I really did love that scene, how he ended up saving him in the end. It was just a very good conclusion overall, and I thought it was incredibly ballsy that Elsa actually dies in this movie. Like, I thought he was gonna save her and somehow get her off this dark path, but no, she actually died in the film, and I was very surprised that they ended up going there, but I think it was incredibly well done, and again, just really differentiates it from the other films in this franchise, and I was just very impressed by that overall. There's a lot of things this film did similar to that I thought were just really well done, and I absolutely loved. Overall, guys, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade is a fantastic film. This is everything that I want in an Indiana Jones sequel. It closed the franchise in a way that, like I said, I don't really think they needed to do more after this movie, but unfortunately, they did, and I'm not going to review that movie because, again, I've seen it before, unfortunately, but I just really don't think they need to do that. Now, I don't know why it's taken me this long to watch all these films, but I really do appreciate this trilogy. I think it is just, it really did shape a lot of what action movies are today, in good ways and in bad, and I think we definitely do have it to thank. I don't think Steven Spielberg would be nearly as iconic as he is if it wasn't for these films overall, and I really did enjoy watching this series overall. This is definitely another really great Indiana Jones film, and I am going to give The Last Crusade overall an A. But over, guys, in my review of The Last Crusade, and with that, my Own and Never Falking Seen It for Indiana Jones is now done. However, I'm still not going to do the randomly select because the next one I'm going to be doing is going to be actually a collab with my good friend Jackson Fulcher. We're going to be collabing, since the second one is coming out, we will be collabing on the first Equalizer, so definitely, you know, neither of us have seen it, so definitely, you know, we're going to watch and definitely look forward to that on either Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to come out. I'm assuming Wednesday, but we'll have to see. Maybe Thursday. But that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.